this was my practice.
Hello friend, my name is Debbie Happy Cohen, and this video is an introduction to creating your very own sanctuary support meeting. Now, one thing I didn't include in this meeting, which was live, was guidelines for having your own meetings, for creating your own meetings. So I'm going to go ahead and post those right here up front in visual format so that if you wanted to watch this with your group or with the person you're meeting with, you'll have the guidelines right up front and it'll be easy to access. The video is live and it is imperfect and it is awesome. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it brings peace and solace and hope and joy and sanctuary to your world. Thank you very much. Meeting guidelines. Up you go. The meeting intention is deliberate conversations to help you level up and focus forward. Let these meetings be a time for authentic connections. So for that to happen at your meeting, put your phone away, put your smokes away, and come sober. Also, limit talk time to 5 minutes per person. Limit each meeting to 60 minutes. Start on time and have a timekeeper. Suggestion: get centered at the start of each meeting with an embodiment meditation, which you can find at joybasedliving.com. And for more support for your sanctuary meetings, visit joybasedliving.com/bloomingmisfits, or just go to bloomingmisfits.com. It'll take you to the same page. Thank you very much, and here we go.
This was my practice.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the inaugural sanctuary support meeting. We have people crawling on the floor. We have laughter going on. Now, for the purposes of this meeting, I'm going to be facing my darling audience here rather than the camera. However, you will be able to hear my voice, which is just so beautiful. Thank you very much. So, all is well. No, all is well. So, welcome to the very first sanctuary support meeting. Thank you, Anne, and everybody for being here. Yay! And thank you, Anne, for making this possible and hosting this meeting. I'm hoping that this is the first of many for different people around the world who are looking for more sanctuary, who are looking for more support. So my intention in this meeting was to create like a little bit of a template for an introduction, that if anybody wanted to have their own sanctuary meeting, whether it was just 2 people or it was 50 people, they would be able to get an understanding of what we're doing, what we're about, and the intention for the meeting here. The thing that drove me to do this, actually, was your desires and your curiosities and your hope. I mean, I had somebody knock on their door the other day and desperately ask me, can trauma start in the womb? Because she had just looked at sanctuary. And then I had somebody else say to me, please, I need an emotional flashback release. I need a relief, please help me. And so we have people coming in right now, so that's cool. Make yourselves comfortable. Hi, Mama. Hi, Julie. So let's see. There was please help me have an emotional flashback relief. There was the trauma thing. I want to know where it starts. And then the other thing that happened was I had a difficulty with someone a few weeks ago on a phone call, and at the next day, instead of there being like a lingering trauma between us, she texted me and she said, were you having an emotional flashback yesterday? And that just cleared the space between us. And so sanctuary can happen in the moment. It is the moment, and it can happen within ourselves, and it can happen in relationships. Now, the reason we call ourselves Blooming Misfits is because the people who seem to be attracted to sanctuary and to joy-based living and to my work are people who have found ways to get their needs met in sideways kinds of ways. You ever see like a tree growing out of a rock? And you're like, how did it do that? Like all of us do that. And it's one of our skill sets, but it also can keep us from really thriving in relationships. A lot of us have social anxiety. A lot of us have difficulty with really putting ourselves out there as fully as we could. And what I've noticed also in common with many of us is that we are so full of love that it's painful when the love is blocked. Like I'm seeing nods all around, like everybody can relate to that. And so one of the phrases that I've used in the book Sanctuary, which I'll be mentioning a lot, so there's the book Sanctuary. You can get it for free for now at joybasedliving.com as a free download. That many of us are what I call COGs, compulsive overgivers. Now, when you put a bunch of compulsive overgivers who have a lot of love in the same room together, it's a party. And so Anne started saying, it's my tribe! My tribe is here!
It is my tribe!
We are misfits! And I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. And then another friend of mine was like, oh, how about bloomingmisfits.com? And so that's how this started. So what I want to offer up right now is just enough introductory language and enough clarity of intention for what our meetings are for. So I want us to up-level our game. The truth of the matter is the world needs our love and our radiance. And we need our love and our radiance because we feel better and our immune systems are happier and we feel more joyful when we are fully present with ourselves and we're not holding ourselves back. So I just want to talk about what it means to go from really stuck to hell yes.
Yay!
Yay! And for that, I love the metaphor of the Statue of Liberty. And so really stuck is when you're way at the bottom. And the thing that started me writing Sanctuary was listening to the children's book called Her Right Foot and learning that the Statue of Liberty is actually walking. She's not standing still. And that there is a chain around her right foot and it's broken. She's actually going forward. And that's the day I started writing Sanctuary. I felt like my spirit was set free because I was born in New York and I always resonated with the statue. I always felt like I was the Statue of Liberty. Born to a family of immigrants and being the first girl in a patriarchal society, I was the Statue of Liberty. I was like the call for freedom, and they were like, get back in your room. I was like, the call for freedom, get back in your room. So it was kind of a fight for a while. So, I mean, I learned how to get my needs met in ways that were awkward. How do you get love when you're in trouble all the time? You know, I was in trouble all the time. So, and how do you give love? You know, and then you have people who misunderstand your intentions, and how does that work? So that's what it means to be a misfit. Normal people seem to figure out how to. What happens is when you've had a lot of emotional trauma, you learn to protect yourself a lot, and you learn to hide in a cave. And if you, we have a doggy joining us. And if you stay hidden in that cave, you can get your survival needs met, but you're not going to thrive. So that's why we call ourselves blooming misfits. So the bottom, so we go from stuck to shocked to hell no to hell yes. That's the process up. And my intention is that our meetings are deliberate conversations. That up you go, that the meeting intention is deliberate conversations to help you level up and focus forward. So you can think about anywhere that you are in any area of your life and go, am I stuck? Am I shocked? Am I in hell no? Or am I in hell yes? And then what do I need to get to the next level? And then I wanted to model this after 12-step programs because 12-step programs have reached millions and millions of people and they're peer-led and they're ongoing. Which makes, that allows for freedom. Misfits love freedom. Misfits are terrified of somebody trying to control them. I'm getting nods all around the room. So I feel like I have found my tribe. Like, y'all are not normal, and I'm right at home. Amen. So let's go up this little scale here. So when you're and you're going to learn some vocabulary here. My intention isn't that you master it today, but just that you familiarize your ears with the words if you've never heard them before. So if you're stuck and you're just like stuck, meaning I can't stop drinking alcohol. I can't stop watching movies and binging. I can't stop overworking. I can't stop my mind. I can't get quiet. I'm not taking care of myself. I can't stop just doing things for other people. Whatever, we all have a thing. I don't know anybody, misfits or not misfits, who doesn't have a thing. And what I have learned is the term called complex post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress response. For the purposes of this meeting, we're just going to say post-traumatic stress. That when you're having a post-traumatic stress response and it's compulsive, you don't have control over it. So when you open that fridge and you feel out of control, you are out of control. And what you want to do first of all is recognize, oh my gosh, I'm having a moment. I'm having a post-traumatic stress moment. And the way you know you're having it is that you're acting compulsively instead of consciously. So misfits who love freedom don't want to be a slave to anything, including their own compulsions, right?
Right.
So instead of looking here all the time, I'm going to look at my own notes. It's the same thing that I have here. So if the 4 F's are running your life, the 4 F's stand for fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And fawn means people please. And people who are really codependent will people please even if there's nobody there. I know I've done that. I mean, sometimes I'll go to eat like something out of my fridge and I'll be like, well, what if someone else wants some? I'm like, I live by myself. Okay, like that's so you do that too. Like, totally codependent. So that's fawning. Freezing is you're having an interaction with someone, you know that an appropriate response would be to ask for your need to be met or to fulfill your obligation or to do your part, but you can't do anything. You're just frozen. You're just frozen. So what do you do? And what do you do if that's happening to you, like in the workplace? So then it's affecting your profession and your experience in the world. Where misfits have the hardest time is accepting their power in the world. Because misfits were taught by definition, you don't belong here. So what happens when you get misfits together? It's kind of like weird and cool. Because misfits united is an oxymoron. Isn't it? It's an oxymoron. And but here's the thing. If you don't get out of the isolation of your cave, you will never thrive fully. There'll always be something holding you back, or you will sabotage. You might compulsively sabotage. I mean, I have manifested big sabotages and be like, where did that come from? And after a certain number of them, you just start going, there's a common denominator here and it's me. But I don't know what it is. And I used to teach manifestation classes, so I would manifest big and then I would sabotage big to where I was like, okay, put the magic wand down and slow down and find out what's going on. So when things started changing for me is when I realized I'm dealing with post-traumatic stress. I'm having 4 F responses that are happening compulsively, and I'm having emotional flashbacks that have me in a tidal wave of emotion. Because I didn't have a physical or sexual abuse as a child. The trauma that I had was being with people who were trying to just survive. I've learned that a lot of children of immigrants have a lot of trauma that they have to deal with. Not all the time, but that it's common. because people are in a new country, they don't know the language. Where is their time and energy going? It's going to survival. So, and then if they're refugees and they're resenting the fact that they had to leave and they're trying to keep intact their traditions, and then you bring the kid to America and the kid's born in America and they're just in the face of that. I think of a lot of Indians who've just moved here, or Mexicans. I mean, my family is from Iraqi Jewish, which is very rare. But compared to like, India and Mexico and stuff like that. But we all have these rich traditions that we come from. And the trauma of having to run from your country where you were raised. And the trauma of having your country betray you. Where does that energy go? And psychology isn't very old. It's a very young thing. Psychology is still not clean and clear. What I have come to learn is that if CPTSD were to be considered a psychological diagnosis, the big fat diagnostical manual would become a booklet, and people who are like therapists who sometimes get trauma by proxy, just from hearing other people's stories, would be able to help heal themselves and heal others much quicker. My degree is, I have a master's degree in counseling, but because I had a lot of other empowerment knowledge, I didn't want the big fat DSM to be my Bible. And so I left the counseling field and became a coach prior to the millennium, a long time ago. So if you're stuck in trauma, you want to recognize, I didn't say stuck in trauma before, I just said stuck. If you're stuck in a pattern of compulsivity, consider the idea that it could be because you're dealing with trauma. I had someone else a few weeks ago say to me, oh my God, I was diagnosed improperly 20 years ago. This is what I've been dealing with. It's so empowering. Because even if you have another diagnosis, if you put CPTSD next to it and you handle that, you're going to eliminate a lot of symptoms and you're going to get your power back. So what you do from being stuck, you go to, the reason I have level stuck at 0 and then 1, 2, 3 above that is because in the book, one of my favorite parts of the book is Happy D's Intrepid Glossary of Psychological Jargon. And within that, I show the stages of healing, 1, 2, and 3 of how to get to hell yes. And I didn't start it at level 0, I started it at level 1. So here you see level 0 is stuck. Level 1 is shocked. Level 1 is, oh my gosh, that's happening in my life. Oh my gosh, that thing that person is doing to me, that's toxic. That's domestic violence. Oh, but nobody's being hit. But wait a minute. Wait, that's abuse in the workplace. Like it's a shock. It's a shock because everybody's putting up with it. And when you talk to your friends about it, they go, oh no, oh dear, it's all right. Just let it just be, let it fall off like off a duck's back. Or you get advice that is non-empowering and you actually get shut up further because they don't know what to do about it. So shocked, when you're shocked, what you're looking for in that shock is validation. So when you talk to somebody and they go, oh, that was really not cool of that person, and you go, oh my God, really? Did you just, you heard what I just said? That validation, so what people who are dealing with post-traumatic stress need the most in order to thrive is compassion, and the compassion that comes from validation and a sense of protection. And that protection comes from knowing how to set boundaries. But the knowing how to set boundaries comes from having a sense of self. And if you've been taught you don't exist, your identity doesn't matter, how do you get boundaries? Where do you get the will to get boundaries? No, you just go to your cave. Then it's time to ask for a raise. How do you get the voice? I have so many people within my circle who, when they go to speak up for themselves, they get red in the neck. Stuck. How do you promote the love in you, in whatever form you're doing it, if you keep having trauma hold you back? So in shock, you seek validation. Now what you want to do there When you're stuck, you need compassion. You just need, have compassion. If you're stuck like in an addiction, give yourself a ton of compassion. Try to be firm with yourself, but don't be mean. Because if you're here and you haven't gotten here because you don't have the emotional literacy, baby, just give yourself a big hug because it's not stopping anytime soon. And, I think of one of the great spiritual teachers in the world who says, forgive them, they know not what they do. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself over and over and over and over again because we're part of a culture that's asleep. So we go to shocked, seeking validation. What you want to do from shocked to hell no is where you set boundaries. This is where you want to develop emotional literacy, which you can learn about in the Sanctuary book. I have a ton of resources in here, and the emotional literacy, how to do that, is in here. So study that together with your friends in your group. And you want to learn the 4 F's. You want to learn what your response is. What are my primary responses? My primary responses are like flight and fawn or freeze and fawn. I've had a tendency to freeze. People who fight automatically have a tendency toward the more narcissistic end of the scale. Those are not people who are attracted to books like Sanctuary because they don't like admitting their weaknesses. And they don't like empathy. They're like allergic to empathy. That's another conversation. You can do more study on that later. I'm getting looks of shock around here. You don't know how happy I am to be surrounded by blooming misfits. You don't even know. It's like the people who are in the fighting end of the spectrum are so uncomfortable with with this conversation that they self-select themselves out. I'm curious to see what's going to happen as groups emerge and as they grow. What happens here is that the shackles begin to break. They begin to weaken as you begin to stir. You still have sleep in your eyes, but you're like, oh, no. Your sense of desire, your sense of curiosity, and your sense of hope starts skyrocketing here. You're like, wait a minute. Wait. You're starting to just wake up. When you go into the level of getting the emotional literacy because you've been shocked, you go to hell no, that's when you begin setting boundaries. Now, I know a lot of blooming misfits who stop blooming here because they're like, oh, no, and they know how to put up walls, but you'll still hear the same stories from them. It's, this person tried to do this and this and that, but I told them no. Okay, that's really good, but that's not a way to live. It's like you have walls. But boundaries are supposed to be intelligent. Boundaries are like cellular membranes that say, this is good, let it in. This is not good, don't let it in. There's less defensiveness. There's less compulsive defensiveness when you are in hell yes. When you're in hell no, you're just like, I can set boundaries. I can say no. Yeah, and you learn to do it with a smile. You learn to take yourself out of the brainwashed hypnosis that you've been living inside of. And as you pop out of it, you start learning, I exist. Well, let me tell you something. As you do that, that can actually re-traumatize you and bring back emotional flashbacks because that's what frightened you to begin with. Memories will come up of times that you did that and times that you got your butt kicked. And then you'll want to slide, like Chutes and Ladders, like go, then you got to climb back up again. But if you know emotional literacy, you understand emotional flashbacks, and you have friends who understand the same, you're just going to climb up. You're just going to be like, okay, I know who to call. I know where to get validation. I know what I need. I know who is not going to just perpetuate my story and keep listening to it over and over, but they're going to help nudge me, and they know how to nudge me. Like my friend who said to me, honey, were you having an emotional flashback yesterday? Like, that cleaned up so much crap in that moment. Because she knew that I'm normally not, that edgy and that stubborn. And I was. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Now, the boundary I had still had to be there. I still wanted it there. But if I had not been in emotional flashback, I would have had a better sense of humor. And I would have set the boundary a little bit more sweetly. Like we do in the South. Right? Well, it doesn't all have to be fists, you know. I mean, I'm a Yankee. I can do the fists, but it shouldn't have to be that hard. And when I'm in a mode of extremely good self-care, self-loyalty, self-honor, I exude more of that, and there's less need to set boundaries that often because people pick it up. They're like, oh, this person cares about herself. You know, let me care for them too. Or they go, it's easy to take advantage of people when you can pick up the vibe that they let themselves be taken advantage of all the time. And then, okay, back to self-perpetuating, back in the cave. But you don't want to live in the cave. We want to bring out the Statue of Liberty. So when you're in the hell no zone, what you want to realize there is that's where the shackles break. You can go forward, but where are you heading? This is where you want to start. You want to start investing in time with yourself to set clear intentions. You want to go, what do I really want? Who am I really? You want to form an identity in you that was never allowed to form before. And the only way that I know to do that is in relationship with others. Because the way that we thrive is by being of value in the world. Well, when we're of value in the world, we're meeting needs of others. How do I say this? If we keep ourselves in isolation or in limited relationships, we never fully heal the post-traumatic stress. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It was in relationships that we were hurt, and it's in relationships that we need to see, I'm safe now, I can handle my own, and I belong in the world. You know, it's like Deja Lee said when we first started, she was like, we're not misfits, they're misfits. Well, you know, what if love was normalized? That's not what helped our ancestors survive when we needed to, like, survive animals in the jungle. But it's what we need now because there's so many of us that when we have conscious relationships, we can navigate planet Earth no matter how many people there are. You know. So when we go to from hell no, where the shackles break, where are you heading? That's where you begin to create safety for yourself so then you can jump into hell yes. And then you go, Statue of Liberty, yes. This is where you choose joy and self-worth. Now, this is where I told you a lot of people stop themselves right before that. Because joy and self-worth say, hey, I want the magic. I'm not going to settle for less than the magic. I want the serendipities, whatever that means. I want to be in touch with what's wanting to emerge. I want to be in touch with that larger field of who I am and see what wants to grow for me. So I want you to be thinking about essential psychological skills for thriving. This is actually on page 1 of Sanctuary. And, you know, a lot of people are using all kinds of healing modalities now, including positive thinking is very popular. Well, you can use that to shut yourself down and land in the cave. Plant medicine is being used now. That can be really helpful to bring stuff up, but it doesn't teach, and meditation as well. All these different modalities and metaphysics, and I've been studying metaphysics since I was 19, and I've been involved in metaphysical groups, so I understand the limitations of it, and here's the limitation of it. What those modalities don't teach is they don't teach self-connection to your core. They can give you glimpses of it, but they don't teach how to go there and stay there and how to create resonance in that. They don't teach emotional self-regulation. How do you deal with the fear that comes up that has just tidal waved over you, and now all of a sudden you're binge watching again and you're like, what's going on? 13 steps to managing emotional flashbacks. Pete Walker. Step 1, I am having an emotional flashback right now. I'm having an emotional flashback. Step 2. Now, step 2 has been the trickiest one for me because sometimes I go to emotional flashbacks so quickly to one of the 4 F's, into my habitual addictions of whatever they are, that I don't realize. Step 2 is remind yourself, I feel afraid, but I am not in danger. I am safe now, here in the present. And when I first read that, I was like, What do you mean I feel afraid? I don't feel afraid. I'm just watching Netflix. It's only my 30th episode in a row. No, I'm not afraid. Like, I'm not afraid. I'm fine. Well, yeah, because I've just opiumed myself out. I'm totally fine, right? So I actually don't feel afraid in that moment. But why am I not afraid? Because I'm hiding. Do you see how, like, so what emotional self-regulation is being honest and being clear and being communicative with the self first. This is what I'm really feeling right now. Oh, well, what triggered that? Oh, I took a step in a direction that made me more visible. It could be that, you know. It doesn't have to be that somebody hurt you. It could be, I leaned into something bigger than who I thought I was. Frightened. Step back. So it could be facing the unworthiness of that moment. I mean, it doesn't have to be what exactly just happened. It could be the flashbacks that carry you into memories that are around that. So if you grew up, let's say, in a household where there were a lot of double binds, where you couldn't please anyone, I've learned that when somebody can't be pleased, that's actually a form of abuse. I see eyebrows raising. It made my eyebrows raise when I realized that. I was like, you know what? It is. Because then the person next to you who wants to see happiness in your face can't ever access that. And then what happens is, if you're not healthy, guess who you blame? Yourself. Welcome to the world of toxic shame, which keeps people stuck in 4Fs. And I think that's where a lot of the metaphysical stuff and even the psychological stuff, it doesn't go deep enough for people who are dealing with post-traumatic stress. You're often dealing with toxic shame. And if you're still listening to this recording right now, you have so much damn courage I can't even begin to tell you. Because these are words that people fly from. They flight from. It takes a lot of courage to even have this conversation. So we have self-connection, emotional self-regulation, and healthy, secure attachment with others. So to have great memories and a great life and a lot of joy, you need belly laughter. I don't know about you, but I can't get belly laughter all by myself usually. Okay, so
You're not in my league.
You're not. I'm not in your league. Okay, I'll have to have something to aim for. So what we want to do in our meetings, in like 5 minutes or less per person, is just simply share with the others, and you can do it anonymously. You can just say, hey, you know, my name is Debbie and I'm committed to joy and creating sanctuary in the world. And in saying that, what you're saying is, here's my intention. It's not, the price for admission is not, here's my wound or here's my addiction, but here's my intention, here's my commitment. And if you're with me, then we're on the same page. Now, if I can share with you in 5 minutes or less, here's how I climbed the scale in the last few days or weeks. Or here's where I'm stuck on that scale in this area of my life. Or here's where I'm celebrating having climbed the scale. And it doesn't matter if you're going from 0 to 4 or 3 to 4, or you're stuck at 0 and you're like, look, I just came here for inspiration. And then you can come back and help other people, because as people see evidence of other people landing in hell yes, they're gonna be like, okay, I can have it too. Okay, maybe I can have it too, right? And as you land yourself in hell yes, by then you have healthy boundaries. So then when you're supporting others, you're not trying to fix it for them. You're not trying to figure them out. Your codependency is at bay. So now you can really uplift. How's that for cool?
Cool.
Okay, so I think that was a pretty clear introduction. I'll just end with this one right here. In Sanctuary, we have, it's called Sanctuary, the book, 4 mantras for thriving after emotional trauma. And the 4 mantras, I'm going to close the introduction with the 4 mantras, because these 4 mantras are mantras that I repeat to myself over and over and over again. I find them very helpful in snapping me back into the moment of being the best that I can be. And sometimes I'll repeat a mantra over and over again, and then the other ones, and sometimes I'll just go through them once. So the 4 mantras are: thank you, So you can say thank you, 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 thank you. And you can be thanking just the moment. There can be no, you don't have to have a reason, just to, it feels good, right? It's like I can feel my heart opening as I say thank you. Then the second one is tell me more. And tell me more isn't tell me more about the story that you've said 500 times that you're still, it could be that if you're in a healing conversation, but tell me more is, I'm feeling joy in my heart. I want to feel more of it. I tell my heart, tell me more. I'm feeling anxiety in my belly. I say to the anxiety, to the sensation, oh, tell me more. So what happens in tell me more is I give myself the loving attention that I always wanted. That all the feelings in the palette are welcome, including anger, including rage, including blame, including sadness, including joy, including shame. Most people can't handle any of those emotions at a high level. We water them down like cheap paint, and I don't like cheap paint. I like golden paint. Do not like cheap paint. Once I learned that like really good pigment paint, the magic of how it mixes together is amazing. Well, think about your emotions. So when you say to yourself, tell me more, you're saying, even if nobody else in the world is present with me, I am present with me. And that's how we come back into our bodies. And that's how we hold ourselves in love. And then we have more to give others. Then we can say to them, tell me more. And then if you're like me, you go, no, I don't want to hear the story anymore. No, the story, no, what's going on what's in your body right now? Oh my gosh, I just feel a knot in my belly. Tell me about the knot. Tell me more. What color is it? So we go into the sensations the way we would turn toward a baby or a puppy. They can't talk. We have to just be with them. So then we go, number 3 is shiny object. Now the reason shiny object is in there is because so often I know for me in doing this kind of processing and this kind of healing work, I can get so gosh darn serious. That shiny object, oh my gosh, okay, so we have shiny object. Right? It kind of changes the state. It's kind of like when you see a kid and they've just fallen down, you go, oh look, airplane. You know, it's not a distraction to avoid a feeling, it's a distraction to just pop you back into the present. And then you can come back to it later or whatever. I've been down that rabbit hole sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months. And when you're tidal waving inside of emotional flashbacks, dude, you need shiny objects. So I've noticed that a lot of blooming misfits are actually quite childlike and childish. So when I'm working with them like on an entrepreneurial level, it's kind of like Montessori. Montessori meets entrepreneurism. And it's very playful and it's a lot of fun. And it works. It's powerful. So, and then number four, I love number 4. Number 4 is I choose worthiness. Well, if I'm choosing worthiness and I have that resonating through my whole being, and I've just opened my energy into thank you and tell me more and shiny object, and then I say I choose worthiness, what's the likelihood of me climbing up that scale? It's high. It's high. So I think that's a good note to close on. Did I leave anything out? Anybody have any questions before we go just to quick shares from people? Does anybody have any questions or anything you feel like I should have shared that would be helpful for hosting a meeting? So that was really great?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yay! Blooming Misfits United. So I would like support from anybody who's watching this. If you want support from me in starting your own meeting, what I would like from you is to support me at Patreon at, oh my God, $1 a month. So what that will help me do is keep the conversation united, because quite frankly, I suck at keeping email lists and sending them out. I do have an email list that's official at Joy Based Living, but for the purpose of Blooming Misfits, for the purpose of Sanctuary Support Meeting, if you're supporting me at patreon.com/Joy Based Living at $1 a month, you can ask whatever questions you want. I can help people globally. I can stay sane and keep the Patreon community alive with here's how the groups are going, members can support each other, you can get to know each other. It's an informal community that it also keeps away a lot of people who are trolling, because trolls don't usually want to pay $1 a month. And if the, you know, anyway, it gives me a sense of clarity over the conversation, so that I can really help meet your needs, and then you can help meet each other's needs. Does that make sense? So it's patreon.com/joy-based living. And with that in mind, what we're going to do now, and I'm going to turn the video off for this part, because I think that this requires a sense of honoring people's stories, is we're going to give people 3 to 5 minutes. Just share where you think you are on this scale in general, and share where you would like to be, and anything that I may have said today that you go, oh, this is one thing I'm going to implement to help step up. So the phrase is up you go, and we want to level up, focus forward, level up, focus forward. Because when you're leveled up, that's the time to focus forward. So how does that sound to everybody? Yay!
Good job.
Well, you don't see this, but they're all giving me standing ovations here.